So the next question is, how do I do it? So a lot of people are going to be saying, right, this all sounds great. We want to secure ourselves, but where do we go? Now, there is no right answer, is the simple way to put it. There's no one size fits all solution to security, to compliance, to governance, and to zero trust. So what works for one company may not work for other companies. So everybody has their own requirements. There are different risk appetites. There are different levels of compliance that people need to sit under. There are different levels of vulnerability already within a customer's environment. So no matter where you sit at the moment, it's about taking steps to deliver that. Now, there are also different companies have different levels of user readiness. So you've already pushed some things to users, they're quite accepting of change. Other companies are still largely on premise, and when you start to move to the cloud, it's a massive shift for the users, and they're not able to control that. Part of the solution is about using a combination of tools and processes to get where we need to be. So there's not one, like I said, there's not a one size fits all solution. It's not that we can just flick a switch and suddenly we're secure. We need to be looking at a combination of tools and processes to cover the use cases within that particular organization. And it needs to be a strategic deliverable. And by that, it's not a quick project. We need to be looking at this over a length of time so that we can start to implement things, we can start to test them, and we can start to get them out to the users to start to build up that level of protection in a way that's not going to be massively impactful, but is going to provide the levels of protection we need. An important note is that the work is never done. A zero trust strategy should be carrying on over forever, pretty much. So what you're looking at doing is evolving your solution. The threats to your network are going to evolve, and as such, so is the combination that you need to do, the combination of tools that you need to take on. So if we just take a very brief look at the amount of things that could be in the puzzle, and this isn't a holistic view by any stretch, but it definitely provides a big overview of where you can go with some of these zero trust strategies. There's a lot of things that we can protect, and there's a lot of things that we can do. So this slide here, and I'm not going to go through all of it, this is just to highlight exactly where we can go. This is just to highlight some of the range of tools that we can use to provide that strategy for you. So we can look at all of these things in combination with conditional access in the middle to ensure applications, devices, data, and identity are all getting protected at the point of sign-in. And then via conditional access, we can also make sure that we're taking remediation actions and asking people for more verification on those things when those markers change. We want to help people to be building a security model. So by saying that, what we're saying is, if you just turn on all features across security at once, your users are not going to enjoy themselves. They're going to stop getting access to people. They're going to stop getting access to resources that they need. They're going to stop seeing things that they had before, and they're going to start to find alternative ways of working because the security has just been put on as a big blanket, which we don't really want. Each change has an impact. So when we turn on particular services, users are going to feel that impact. So what we want to do is we want to understand what risks are in the business first and foremost. We want to look at the holistic picture. We want to look at what data we've got, what applications we've got, and how we're protecting our users' devices and identity. By doing that, we can then start to build out what our mitigations would need to be. We can start to test and understand the impacts that that's going to have on our users. We can communicate that out so that they know exactly what's going to happen. Where possible, we will provide solutions non-intrusively. So if we can turn something on and let users get used to it before we start to enforce it on them, that's often a good strategy. So, there are things like sensitivity labeling on documents. We can provide that to users before we make it mandatory. We can inform them about it, we can let them use it, and we can let them get used to it, and then we can enforce it further down the line. So there are ways of building out this security model over a length of time that provides less impact to the user, but gets us to the end state we need to be, whilst addressing our immediate risks first and taking kind of our high value bits. So what we want to do is we want to evolve a security strategy, as we've been talking about. So as we've said before, the work is never done. This needs to evolve. We can't just have a strategy for now that we're going to put in place over the next 3 years. We need to constantly be looking at how things have adapted, how things change, and what's become new to our security suite to help us adapt to those threats. We need to prioritize our biggest weaknesses. If we know for a fact that our users' logins are currently not protected by multi-factor authentication, then actually that's a massive step that we can take very quickly, which can eliminate a lot of threats. We need to look for high impact, low consequence changes. So like we said, things like multi-factor authentication, or starting to put sensitivity labels on our documents, starting to implement data loss prevention. These can have quite a high impact on our threat levels and our risk appetite, but they're quite low consequence to the user, and they should be quite low impact in terms of end user impact. We can start to plan pilots, test groups, and rollout phases, and these can then be repeatable. So as we go through different workloads, we can plan new pilots, we can get those early adopters on board, and we can start to work through the use cases to make sure that we're having a positive impact without impacting people's productivity. Communication is key with all of our security processes. We need to ensure our users know what we're doing, but also why we're doing it, so that they understand the benefits of what could potentially put a slight detour into what they're doing day to day. But if they understand the benefits behind it, they'll be more receptive to those changes. We can also continue to monitor threats and adjust the model. Like we said before, we can't just create a 3-year strategy now and expect in 3 years to have delivered that as is. We need to make sure that we're adjusting that model as necessary through that timescale to ensure that what we're doing here is continuing to evolve to those changes that we're making. So in terms of next steps, what we can do is we can help you provide a health check on what you've currently got. We can walk through your zero trust readiness and get an initial view of your security estate. This is done through kind of 3 stages. So it's an assess, deploy, and manage. So we can carry out assessments with you if that's necessary. We can help you to deploy these cloud tools, and we can provide fully managed services to maintain maximum security around your resources where possible. So if any of that is of interest to you, then please get in touch with us here at Cloud Direct.